My very first question is, how have you been?
Me? Well, I related on my Facebook post just last week, and I said the truth is I have been depressed since 2021,
Mm.
and you know, but I said as a seasoned mental health advocate, I said at this moment I don't tell myself I need a therapist. I don't tell myself that I need more drugs. I tell myself I'm waiting for tomorrow because while I'm stuck in my own jam mental block, I know tomorrow holds not only possible answers to my problems, but also holds opportunities. So that's part of my coping mechanism. So I just gonna have to cope. So you ask me how am I really doing? You know, I've been battling depression for a long time.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I don't know. It's okay, man. It's okay, man. I'm like a what they call functional depression. I can get my job done. I can get everything done. But from time to time, I get this sour feeling in front of my chest. And from time to time, things I see, things I hear can trigger immense sadness for me, right?
Mm.
And I'm always challenged by scarcity mindset that come on automatic, and I'm always trying not to self-sabotage myself and sell myself short, you know.
Sounds exhausting.
It is, man. It is exhausting. But that's why I tell myself, you know, other people, take 10 steps to get to one place, and I take 50 steps. So I should foremost tell myself that I'm not lazy, even though I still tell myself, yo, you're lazy. The reason why I feel lazy is because I'm working so hard. But
Mm.
as an agent, you don't make a damn thing. So I'm working so hard, I'm running around doing everything, but without the monetary reward, I feel like, damn, I'm lazy. Could be all my work going out gets nothing back. But that's what white supremacists want you to think that you're lazy, right? But the fact is that people who don't have money, who in the struggle, are the people who work the hardest, right? So I tell myself, the fact that other people have to take 10 steps to get to somewhere, I have to take 50 steps over and over and over. The last thing I am is lazy.
Yeah, Peter, I mean, you never ever came across as lazy to me, I mean, as you probably know, you can't really equate, a lack of closings with laziness. Like that, those are two very, very different concepts. I know that you're still relatively new as an agent, and that's a very irrational connection, laziness and lack of closing. So, is the lack of closings the number one reason why you're depressed?
Not just lack of clothing. I'm just hoping to well, for this industry, definitely you have to close, whether it's a buying, selling, renting. Lately I work a lot. I found my niche, right? In affordable housing, in voucher programs, right? Because I used to work in Medicaid operations. I'm used to navigating government bureaucracies. I'm used to helping people, right? But even in this sector, I'm trying to help people that's very meaningful. But because of all the roadblocks, I'm getting paid even longer durations. Like I have clients who's disabled who are on voucher. I've been helping them looking for a one-bedroom apartment since August, man.
Wow.
Nothing, nothing. I'm still holding their hands. I'm wearing multiple hats. I'm trying to be their counselor. I'm trying to because a lot of time in this type of scenario, you can't really delegate. There's no mortgage people you can get to delegate. There's no lawyer, so it's all on you, all independent. Plus, most agents whether it's they don't understand fair housing or something, they don't want to touch this sector. So you feel very lonely. So you're totally independent at it. So not just because the lack of money supporting, but simply because the fact that I have to build everything from scratch. And on top, there's also a lot of misconception, bias toward us as professionals. Things like that can really get me down.
Yeah, so for the viewers listening, I'm also a realtor myself, as you can see the for sale sign in the back. And Peter and I, we used to be coworkers in the same brokerage, which is HomeSmart. He switched brokerages pretty recently. But the point is, I know exactly what it feels like. I'm only a little bit more new than you, like 4 months, I think. And I know what it feels like to not close and to struggle and to cold call and to door knock and to just get nowhere. And I know what that feels. And it is depressing and it is lonely. So, Peter, help me understand what you mean by depressed. What does that look like? What is depressed? What does that mean? What does that look like?
First of all, that's a nice shirt, you know. That's like the Filipino banquet
Yes,
shirt, right?
yes.
Right? Yeah,
It's I bought
yeah.
it in the Philippines. I bought this in the Philippines.
I know
When I
exactly
went,
what that is. That's good
yeah,
stuff.
I bought it in the Philippines a year and a half ago.
Yeah. Well, depression. The first time I felt depressed was when I was 12,
Wow.
actually, right? So, because I have Tourette syndrome. Okay, Tourette syndrome is a neurological, semi-involuntary tic disorder, but it's also a spectrum disorder. So, being a spectrum disorder, there are a lot of comorbidities, other mental health disorder on the same spectrum. So, I'm diagnosed with Tourette's. I'm diagnosed with ADHD and OCD since I was 12 years old. I'm 45 now. The first time I actually felt depression was shortly after I started taking antipsychotic. It was called ORAP, 1.5 milligram, to take it to help control my tics, right? But at the time, a lot of people, even doctor, they didn't realize that not only the antipsychotic bring about physical side effects, but there were a lot of mental side effects. So
Wow.
about 2, 3 months after taking the medication, some of my peak tics disappeared. Guys, I used to like convulsion. People say, "Are you having a seizure?" Right? So those big tics disappeared. My mom was very happy. Like a lot of traditional Asian parents, they don't believe much in mental health. But if you have a physical manifestation of tics, it's very embarrassing. So on one hand, she hopes the tics will stop to help me, but a lot of times she wants the tics to stop to save her face, so she don't look bad, right?
Yeah.
But while my tic were being controlled, mentally I was messed up, right? And I started feeling a curve, a manic depression curve, right? In the morning I go to school, I'm all hyped, and then by afternoon my mood dropped down to nothing, right? So that's when I started to feel this. I didn't know what that was. So I used to talk to my mom. My mom's like, everybody have mood swing, right? Everybody have good mood, bad mood, right? Nothing special about it. So I kept it to myself. I didn't tell anybody. So that was initially when I first felt it, right? But that depression without people acknowledging, so I started asking myself a lot of questions. And that's when things got worse. Because I asked myself a lot of questions, my conscious replied back to me. So eventually this conscious reply become manifested as almost like a voice in me. So whenever I feel depressed, this voice will start in my head and say, "Hey, Peter, you a fucking loser, right?
Wow.
Right? He said, why don't you go play basketball with those kids, right? Why are you just standing here, right? So I don't want to because I was also shy. I also suck at a lot of things. Whenever I get very self-aware, these voices come out. So a lot of kids who know me back in the day, we used to skateboard. So there were times where I just stopped playing. I just sit there and like, what's wrong? What's wrong? They don't know what's happening, but I'm having this huge battle inside my head going on. The only thing I could make this voice stop is to go to sleep, right? And this feeling carried with me all the way until the last moment of me taking the medicine. I stopped taking the medicine at age 20, right? And at the time, there's no medicine management. So even though it's just 1.5 milligram, nowadays, right, they do blood work, they make sure the medicine still work, they talk to you, adjust dosage, wax and wing. Back then, it's really nothing. So 1.5 milligram, I took it for 8 years. The only way I stopped it was that, I kept on fighting with my mom, right? Because she doesn't believe that I have these voices. So I moved out at 19. By the time I was 20, I was living out. One day, I was so depressed, I was crying, and I wanted to crash my car to the oncoming traffic. I
Wow.
wanted to kill myself.
Wow.
And that's when I spoke to my industrial psychology professor in Baruch about these feelings. And he empathized with me So he said you should talk to your doctor, perhaps slowly waxing wing to cut it out. I didn't slowly cut it out. I did a very dangerous move. I stopped taking medication at 1-0 one day. I had a terrible withdrawal, but I woke up like 3, 4, 5 days later. Voices disappeared. Depression disappeared also,
Really?
right? And but however, it's been there. It's been there. So then my last major depression really started was in the pandemic, especially after I moved to Long Island, after I become full-time remote, working from home. That's when I really got depressed to a point where back in 2022, I had to file for disability, and I took a 8 month long uh, leave of
Hiatus.
absence, right?
Uh-huh.
Right. So for me, depression uh, can feel two different ways, right? One way is if it's so severe to a point that I feel like I don't want to move. I'm very passionate, I have a lot of faith for the future. I have a lot of hope. So at those moments, I have really no hope. I have really no faith. I don't want to get up. I don't want to do anything. And even if I want to do something, my head will create scenarios telling me that whatever you want to do is not going to work for you, right? So I'm just going to sit there and expect something might happen, yet nothing happens, right? But then when I'm more in a functional depression stage, which is kind of like right now,
Yeah.
I can still function. I can still get up. I can cook for my kids. I can get everything done. But I'm not exactly 100% happy. And like I said, from time to time, the sour, sad feeling rise to my chest. You know?
Sounds really rough, man. You gave me a lot to respond to. So what I noticed in the beginning was that your parents weren't really giving you the attention and the proper treatment that you deserved, because it sounded to me like your mom just kind of brushed it off and you didn't mention your father. And it sounds like, you weren't getting the proper treatment and the proper care that you deserved.
Yeah, well, my parents were divorced when I was 12.
Mm.
Uh, growing up, the first time I had my tick was 8 years old, but my mom wasn't around. My mom was already in the States. I came to the US in 91. My dad came with me, but my mom and my dad had a very long problems. And so even when I was a little kid, I grew up watching them fighting. They weren't like physical and stuff like that, right? They never got into a fist fight, nothing like that. My father never hit her. My father, he's a narcissist, right? And instead of hitting her, whatever, he'll say nasty stuff. He'll gaslight her, right? Right? But I can't deny, it. My mom was also a narcissist, also. So but however, my mom cares so much about holding together the family. My father will then take his rage externally, right? He will blame my mom for being cold. He'll blame my
Yeah.
mom for not having sex. So he go out there and bang other women. So he was very successful. He was a director, movie sets, but
Wow.
he had a lot of women. So after my mom left, went to the States, my father, just used to bring his girlfriends home, right? At
Wow.
one time he was seeing uh my classmates' mom.
Wow.
So yeah, we used to go out with my classmates. They're all there, the husband there also, but the husband have no idea what's happening. Meanwhile, he brings her home, and I wrote this on Facebook one time. I said, a lot of time it's the matriarch of the family that enforce toxic masculinity, because even though my grandmother very successful woman. She passed away at 103, 2 years ago. She came out with a book, very popular. She was a writer. She was really exemplify
Mhm.
feminism. Yet she also reinforced masculinity, toxic masculinity. So letting my father do whatever, always forgive him, always be the mediator whenever he cheats, right? Telling the wife to hold on to him longer. So so yeah, it is a it's a complicated beginning while I'm building my core memory and my core value. When I was a little kid, I used to cry myself to sleep, right? I used to create these scenarios in my head. And one of the things I like to create in my head was that I'm homeless. I'm living in a cave and I'm dying alone. Even now when I think about this, you see I'm breaking up, my voice is breaking up, because it is still my biggest fear of becoming homeless, and whenever I'm depressed, when I'm down, I will go right back into the childhood memory of how I always think about dying alone. You know.
Were you homeless at one point?
No, I wasn't, but me and my partner, we've had our struggles. We being homeless, having to living out someone's living room for over a year and
Wow.
before finding housing. But that's now. But I personally hasn't been physically myself being homeless. But I felt that way because I felt that no one really cared for me. One of the things I remember one time I went to my parents' room and in China, and I was crying. I said, "Oh, I don't know how to make friends." Right. Meanwhile, my father got nothing but friends. My mom was also very popular, got all kind of friends, but they never taught me how to make friends.
Okay.
So I eventually I had to buy friends when I was a kid. I got into the habit of stealing money from my parents,
Wow.
right? And I buy things for this is back in my elementary school. I buy things. At one time I threw money in the sky. All the kids want to jump grab. I'm like, holy shit! I'm finally getting attention I wanted. But it's also one of the kids I bought out sold me out, told my parents that I've been giving money out, right? And but thankfully I didn't get beat, nothing like that. And they'll realize that, oh damn, Peter has a real problem with finding friends. I also realized true friends cannot be purchased.
Yeah, that's true. You mentioned that you had Tourette's, OCD, and ADHD. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
And my understanding is that, a lot of mental illnesses are a combination of genetics and trauma. I don't know if that applies to in every single, obviously that doesn't apply in every single scenario, but that's my understanding of some mental illnesses. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. And I heard your previous episodes talking about generation trauma. And I firmly believe in that also.
Are you referring to epigenetics?
No, no, no. I was just referring to traumatic experience, the way your parents behave, because that's how they were subjected to a certain way from their parents, and then bring that trauma onto you. For example, my parents, they both grew up in a turbulent years in China during Cultural Revolution. They seen some
Mhm.
of the worst human treatment for each other during the time.
Wow.
So their personality was solidified from it. But at the same time, my mom will take examples from her hardship and try to apply to me in this generation. And so even though I didn't grow up in Cultural Revolution, but I almost felt like I lived through it. I felt like this is the only way, right? For example, I have a tendency of lifting old wounds, also trying to convert weakness into strength, which is basically beating myself up. That's something my mother has always taught me. Just forget the pain, forget mental health, just push through. But similar to some of the sales guru talk about behavior training. Yeah, do for 21 times, do 25 times, it's gonna be yours. That was me with a lot of things. So it got to a point that I realized uh, that I don't do things intentionally, right? Because I do things just hoping that even though I don't like something, if I force myself into it, I might like it, you know. So that's the old school mentality my parents taught me. But I can tell you this, I don't apply this onto my kids.
That's great, man. And one thing I talk a lot about in my podcast is breaking cycles. I talk about this a lot, and I'm always so proud of people whenever I hear any sort of like breaking of a cycle. It sounds to me like your parents didn't take mental health seriously, as the old generation didn't, and their parents probably didn't take mental health seriously. We have to remember that mental health it's pretty much it's a new concept and it's just being talked about nowadays. We weren't talking about even when I was a kid. I'm 35. We weren't talking about mental health much when I was a kid. So first of all, and I say this to several other people, and I always mean it, is that I'm so proud of you for breaking that cycle. It makes me so happy to see people break cycles, and you did it. You take mental health a lot more seriously than your parents did, and I'm really proud of you for that, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much, man. Yeah.
And I really mean it. So you mentioned the word narcissist before. You describe your parents as narcissists. Help me understand what is narcissism? What is that?
Oh, narcissism. No, narcissism. It's a you know, if you talk about narcissist personality disorder, then it's actually a diagnosed
Hmm.
uh, behavior of a person. But at the same time, there's also narcissistic traits and symptoms. For
Yeah.
example, when it comes to people with ADHD and also bipolar, they may not be full-blown narcissist personality disorder, but they contain traits of narcissism. So
Right.
basically, people who don't, perfect example, a narcissist, Donald Trump, a person who don't think, yeah, people who don't think, their shit stink, people who think, they're the best, they're the only answer to all the solution, right? Without them, you are nothing, right? People who speak to you in such a fashion where they open a statement by telling you that, oh, you don't know anything, right? You need to listen to me, right? Dunning-Kruger effect, all right? Right? To lead people to lead people into believe that you are the authority, right? But then when you criticize them, they instead of self-examine, analyzing their own faults, they quickly bounce that shit back to you, and they gaslight you and say it's all your fault, right? So to me, that's narcissism. Someone who, narcissist, someone who don't give a someone who don't think their shit stink, someone who have this grandiosity idea that they're the best, they're the supreme, then everybody need to cater to them, right? But then when they are hurt, right, they don't admit they're hurt, but then they're gonna come back and say, yeah, it's all your fault. And that's a narcissist.
Right. So what I'm hearing is someone with a feeling of grandiosity and someone who feels superior to all other people.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I mean that is one or two forms of narcissism. Another form of narcissism is just someone who's always making things about themselves,
Yeah,
not just a
yeah,
feeling of grandiosity. That is one form, but so there are some people who don't feel grandiose, but who are just always making things, me, 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 me. Someone who is extremely selfish. The world revolves around me. That's also another form of narcissism.
right, right, right. They want all the me to focus on your surface, right? But they don't want you to look at what's deep inside because they themselves don't want to look at them deep inside.
Right. And you know what, when somebody has narcissistic parents, a lot of the times they end up feeling unloved. They end up feeling like they're not worth much. Then they end up feeling that they're not very valued.
Mm, yeah, yeah,
Because
that can be said.
your parent, it sounds to me like your parents never really made you feel valued.
Yeah, well, my mother was a lot better in this aspect. I've had a lot of problem with her, but I really reconciled with her after she died. My mother passed away 10 years ago, actually,
Mm.
from pancreatic cancer. Uh,
Wow.
and you know, sadly, but at the same time, it's also reality that after she passed. A lot of people say, "Oh, Peter, you are glowing. You seems like your energy changed,
Wow.
and it's true, And your parents can, even though I moved out a long time ago since I was 19, I never moved back again. But then her shadow cast on me, so I couldn't get myself out of her shadow. So even though I tell other people that I don't care about what my parents think. I don't care about what they think of me, but subconsciously, I do care. I do want to show them that hey, your way is wrong, my way is better, right? But unfortunately, uh, my way didn't get me to any places, And I kept on hearing that, yeah, you should have listened to me. You should have listened to me. So me and her, we always fight, you know. So even when she was dying at the hospice bed, my mom was insistent that she can win cancer, but that she couldn't. So one of the most traumatizing experience was that she kicked me out of her hospice room, right? Telling me, yo, Peter, I don't want to talk to you. You're a disappointment. I'm gonna die right now. Go tell doctor, stop feeding me, stop giving me water. I'm gonna die right now. You need to leave, right? And then yeah, that was the last time I saw her. And then she fell into a coma, and then she died 3, 4 days later. So,
Yeah, so she definitely sounds to me like a narcissist, and she sounds like someone who hated to admit her weaknesses. Someone who, uh, I guess, thought she was stronger than she actually was.
well, it's the thing is, her the way she grew up was very tough. I heard this from your last podcast. You know, the intense one,
Yeah.
right? She has a very big heart, even though what she went through. So she still somewhat she felt sad, right, for passing of the person giving her so much problem. So in many ways, I can relate. I don't want to full on hate my mother, right? Because I understand the type of trauma she has been through. For example, right? Her father was very abusive, very big man mentality. Like my mom grew up with like six sisters,
In
and
China?
in China, yeah. And her father was just very physical, beating the kids, beating the wife, right? But then the father and the mom, they were original farmers, and when the Japanese invaded, they had no choice but to give up their living and join the army. So they were war heroes. But then during the Cultural Revolution, um, you know, they were somehow deemed anti-revolution. Then they become enemy of the state. So they were put on public trial. Like the both grandparents were beaten, tortured in public outside.
Oh,
So while
really?
my mom's sisters all fled to the countryside or joined the army, my mom was naive enough to stand and watch the public trial happen, hoping that at 12 years old, 13-year-old, someone can sympathize and beat her parents less. But on the contrary, they beat them harder. And also a lot of these so-called red guards, revolutionary guards, they were all kids. They were all like former classmates of my mother. Like
Wow.
13, 14-year-old, right, putting adults on trial, right? So she's seen a lot of this the kind of stuff and solidify her experience in a way that to reach success, this is how you gotta do, right? On top, she always have to navigate in this man's world. My father is such a toxic guy, and also when she came to the States, she worked in a man industry. She worked in aeronautics, so she was a very successful sales executive in aeronautic industry, and that's mostly men, right? And my mom never talk about racism because she also feels she's the type of Asian woman feel that if you get enough money there is no racism, right? So she always thought of herself at the same level as a white man. Right? So that's also very narcissistic in a way, because she doesn't see the reality, But that's how she was built because she has to fight hard, struggle hard. That's how she did things, right? But my father, he also went through the Cultural Revolution. He had a lot of traumas, very similar, but his entire family background was different. Uh, he came from a intellectual class family, a lot of Western ties. So he's seen a lot of different type of things. So plus he was the youngest. He was the only son, so he always held in hand. So in many ways, my mother does look into herself, right? And later on, after she passed, I read her journals and I learned a lot more about her inner thoughts. Uh, and as I grow, I realized that one of the reasons why her and I will fight a lot. It's not just because she's a narcissist. It's also because her and I we are so similar. We clash a lot, right? But with my father, I'm not with him a lot, right? And these days, even though he's in the States, we hardly ever talk. And but my dad uh, is 100% narcissist, he never admitted once for being at fault for cheating. Right? Uh, and he always come up with a grandiose idea that, oh, I'm not cheating, I'm saving this woman, right? That's how it is. So it's very difficult to talk to him. For a long time, I didn't think my father was a Trump supporter, right? Because he always engaged with me. Yeah, 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 yeah. You're so right. And then next moment he turned citizen. He became a gun owner, stopped pimping his NRA hat, and next minute he went full blown, right? And I started seeing him marketing, promoting a lot of these materials online. And I talked to him, and suddenly he changed his tone. He threw all this stuff at me. I'm like, wow, you're deep in this for a long time. I didn't even realize, he was just hiding it, and now it all came out. I can't even talk to him anymore because it just feel like, I just feel like I don't know this person at all.
Yeah, that sounds like a very lonely experience. So it sounds to me like both of your parents had really, really rough childhoods, really rough past. They were abused physically, emotionally, verbally. So they developed a mentality, and what their brain learned was that they have to have thick skin, they have to be strong, and then that abuse somewhat carried over to the next generation, and they never broke the cycle. They never broke the cycle of abuse. They never, did the introspection. They don't sound like very introspective people. It sounds like, they just, kind of carried it over. And, my question to you is, and this is a genuine question, how did you, as someone with two narcissistic parents and with abusive parents, how did you come out with such a big heart when you had such narcissistic parents? How did you come out so the opposite?
Well, the thing is, even though they were like that, they still behave in a way of having big heart, and you know, even though my mom, I wouldn't say my mom's a full-blown narcissist. She does have self-reflection time. My father is more like that. Maybe, uh, I did a lot of exploring on my own. One of my core memory uh, of having this mentality change, was when I was in elementary school. After my mom went to the States, I was doing not so well in school, but and I realized, if I get into school politics, even in elementary school, I thought if I get into school politics, maybe I can make myself more popular and more success. But at the time, I learned how to get into school politics the wrong way. I did it through kissing ass. I did it through ingratiating myself to more powerful teachers or the principal, right? For example, man, I had poor grades, so at wintertime we used to burn coal, right, in the teacher's lounge. So I'll show up in school 2 hours before school even starts. I'm cleaning the teacher's lounge, and teacher coming see me doing this. From time to time, they realize, oh wow, this guy he's got potential. So that's how I got put into these leadership positions in China in elementary school. So I explore uh, these elements, and I built myself up. So that's why I even shared on the internet. I said I'm very happy that my older son, he's 11, but he told me that he doesn't want to grow up. He want to be a kid forever, right? Meanwhile, when I was his age or even younger, I was already seeing myself as an adult, and I can't wait to become a grown up, So I always saw myself as an adult. So as to the exact action I took to get myself out of this, It's really hard to say. It's really hard to pinpoint, you know. I just got here, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people are also just born with good hearts, and it sounds to me like your mom deep, deep, deep down cared about you, and deep down maybe had a good heart deep down. Would you say that?
Well, it also has to do with the fact that I grew up with my grandparents.
Mm.
Because I didn't stay in their home a lot. Both of
Hmm.
them worked. My father's almost always on a movie set. My mother was a businesswoman, come home very late. On top, both of them fight all the time. So they threw me to my paternal grandparents. So I pretty much only grew up with my grandparents. My grandmother and I, we used to share the same bed, wake up together. And my grandparents, they have very, very big heart. They also came from, crazy time, running from bombings, trying to survive. My grandfather has some of the biggest heart in the family, and I closely relate to him. And he's also a, he was a famous poet, uh,
Wow.
and a romantic poet, right? And I have a lot of writer in my family, so I have been told that my writing style, my mentality is very similar to my paternal grandfather, who has a huge heart. During the wartime, he organized his classmates to start a poetry club to write about our nation and write about incoming invasion, and trying to romanticize the situation and to put people in a better mindset. So I'm very closely related to him. So I think my big hardness likely has to do with upbringing by my grandparents.
Yeah, when you describe your grandfather, it sounds like you're describing yourself, because to me, I noticed very, very, very quickly that you're an extremely friendly person, very social, very easy to talk to. I noticed that very quickly the first time we met in Melville in the main event. You're very, very friendly, easy to talk to, and it sounds like you got a lot from your grandfather, which is great because it's interesting because sometimes the grandchildren, the grandparents treat the grandchildren so much better than the parents do. I do want to go back to the meds topic because I think this is really important because it sounds to me like when you got off the meds, you felt better.
Yeah, yeah. When I got off the mat, I felt a lot better. I mean the mat gave me a lot of problems. Yeah, yeah. It control ticks, but besides the mental health side effects. Physically, I felt tired. I had headaches. I had mysterious stomach cramps I had to go through every single day. I was very prone to motion sickness through antipsychotic. Yeah, so there was a lot of problems. On top, even though I didn't quite understand what's happening, but at one point, the medicine worked a lot. A lot of my tics went away, right? But the medicine itself also have a side effect, which is also ticks, actually. There's a particular term for it. I forgot right now, but antipsychotic actually give you ticks, and these ticks are more permanent. So I developed vocal ticks. There's
Mm.
something called coprolalia for Tourette syndrome. Is that when we can't control obscene language? Are we running out of time by any chance?
We're good. We're
We
good.
good? We good? Okay, cool, cool,
No,
cool,
I
cool.
bought the Zoom, so we're good.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool, cool. Yeah, yeah. So, so yeah, you gave me more ticks, and I started cursing. I one point I couldn't stop saying "fuck you, bitch," right? And but that came about with antipsychotic. So after I stopped it, I felt refreshed. I felt like what's the term? Oh, reborn. I felt reborn. Because one of the biggest drawback at the time, I even told my doctor at the time. I said I don't want this medicine anymore because the mental health problem triumphed the tics, right? So I just want these voices to go away. So, but as soon as I stop the medicine, the first thing I try to do is to manifest the voice, but it doesn't come out, and I felt so good. And
Very
also,
interesting.
and also in 2021, and then with the depression, I said, you know what? I need to get myself re-diagnosed with something. So I ended up getting diagnosed for bipolar 1, which Initially, I thought, damn, I'm definitely not bipolar one because I don't have the grandiose mania described in bipolar one that lasts weeks. Yes, I have a higher mood, but it's definitely not bipolar one. But at the time, I was so depressed and down. I just decided to just open myself up and just let the doctor decide, right? And the doctor immediately put me on this new antipsychotic, generation three, called Vraylar, right? Because I told her I took ORAP. She said, "Oh yeah, ORAP is horrible, but Vraylar, I have no problem." But she also tell me this medicine is so expensive. It costs like $10,000 for 15 pills, right? But then she tell me if you work with me, I know a pharmacy who can get it to you for free, right? Doesn't that ring a red flag for you already? So I was on this antipsychotic for almost 2 months, and the first thing I felt was the difference was that it stopped my ticks, right? Because my right now I hardly ever had ticks now, But before this medicine, I have more ticks, so it wiped out my remaining ticks. At the same time, made me feel awful. I felt like I have no passion. Like right now, we engaging talking like this. I couldn't talk like this. I couldn't flow, right? There's also another reason why I was having more hard time at work because I used to work in telephonic outreach. I'm on the phone all the time. So if I can't talk, right now, how am I gonna work? So I told the doctor, I said, "Yo, this medicine is not working. It made me feel like a zombie. I have no passion, nothing, right?" But she's like, "But it control your tics." I said, "Hey, I came to you for depression diagnosis, right? I didn't come to you for Tourette's syndrome, right?" I said, "You first gave me bipolar one, right?" He said, "Well, I don't think you're bipolar one anymore. I think you're more like a bipolar two." That's when I fired her, right?
Wow.
Because I said, hey, obviously you are sticking to your principle. Because she always say, yeah, this guy from Columbia University, he's my mentor. And this old 80-year-old white guy, it's all about medicine, medicine, medicine. I'm like, listen, besides sharing your expertise with patients, you foremost needs to listen to your patients
Yeah.
because you're not the one going through the problem.
Yeah.
I'm the one going through the problem, right? Like she was severely anti-cannabis, yet she want to push these hardcore psychoactive drugs on me. So I even asked her, have you ever taken any of the drugs you prescribed to me yourself? Also, have you ever smoked weed, right?
Mhm.
Because if you ever did that, you will realize that your medicine, pharmaceutical, legal drugs are 100 times worse than cannabis.
This is really, really interesting, Peter. Really, this is a really important topic because, there are a lot of people who say that, some people are overdiagnosed and some people are over medicated. And, at the same time, there are also people who are medicated and it changed their life. It changed their life once they went on meds. So, I'm trying to figure out, like, what is the solution to this whole medication process and this whole, because I know some people are over medicated, some people are under medicated. So what is the solution to this whole process?
Yeah, it's true. She peddled this medicine to me like a miracle drug. One of the things she said to me was that, oh yeah, this drug came from Europe. It was almost not yet FDA approved, right? Very difficult. But she said, yeah, one of the great thing about this medicine is that it will change your mindset, right? It's gonna make you suddenly make you think, suddenly make you creative, suddenly make you curious about things you want to do, right? So she gave me example of one patient who had a great feeling, right? After this, it was life changing. So she want to base off this one patient, and throw at me, telling me that this is a miracle drug. Um, it's hard to say, man, because I also run my own Tourette syndrome mental health podcast. I have also interviewed a lot of people, not just with Tourette's, but with other conditions. And the the feeling toward medicine, it's mixed. It's mixed. Some people really find it as a miracle, as a cure. Some people see it as more of a coping mechanism. You solve only half of the problem. And some people obviously don't want to take it. They'd rather find coping mechanism of their own, like myself, finding coping mechanism of my own. Also, there are some people are taking it, yet they have to cope against the side effects. So if you ask me for an exact answer, I don't have that, man. If there is a definite solution out there, then this world will be better, right now.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, it sounds to me like the world is learning.
Yeah.
We are learning from our mistakes. We are learning that, I know that there were certain medications I'm not going to name that were over medicated and some are under medicated. But to me, it does sound like the world is learning,
It is learning.
like we're
It
learning
is
from our
learning. It
mistakes.
is learning. I mean, just like I said, how back in the 90s when I was taking the first antipsychotic, there was no management. I started with the same dose and ended with the same dose. But now, especially with me having to work in Medicaid for like 10 years, I oversaw preventive health, right? I oversaw medicine management. And I was also very happy to see the fact that, oh, wow, I get to be the compliance guy to watching out for medicine management, And I also tell people, hey, I didn't have that when I was a kid, but
Yeah.
now you have it. So meaning that the world is learning, is listening.
Yeah, and I'm really happy that the world is learning. And I think the internet helps a lot too, because, a lot of people bash the internet and bash social media. And I understand that it has its negative effects, but also it's so good for education. And, yeah, is there some false news? Yes, but most of it is true. And, like I feel like a lot of we're a lot more psychologically aware than ever before. And a lot of that has to do with the internet and YouTube, like just like this podcast and your
Yeah,
podcast
yeah.
and even TikTok and Instagram, like is there some fake news? Yes, but most of it is true, and we can always filter out
Yeah, yeah,
want to believe
exactly. Some
something.
people trash Facebook. I don't want to get on Facebook. It's all false news. I said a lot of people they don't really play with the feeds, but they like groups,
Yeah.
Facebook groups. There are a
Mhm.
lot of mental health and Tourette syndrome support group that's excellent, and the admins really do their work, making sure there's no misinformation being passed around.
Yeah, because misinformation, of course, is very, very damaging. But I
It
think the
is.
internet is overall good, especially for our mental health. We're talking about mental health more than ever before, which
Yeah,
is great. And the internet has a lot to do with that. A lot of people are making podcasts, a lot of people are speaking. So I did want to talk about your partner for a little bit.
yeah, sure, sure, of course, man.
So how long have you been married now?
I'm not married. I've been with her for 12 years. We're
Oh,
domestic
so you
partners.
oh, okay, but so you live together,
We live together. Yeah.
and so it's your girlfriend.
Yeah.
So you're basically married, basically in a way, right?
Basically, I've been married before actually. When I initially moved out of my house at 19, is because at the time I was dating someone, and then my mom and I would fight all the time. And then I left. I moved in with her, and also I got married because that girl uh didn't have what do you call that? That girl was well, I wouldn't say she came here to become illegal, right? But so she was, but very short, but she was tricked over. Uh, and basically, what happened was that uh, her relatives brought her over here from Taiwan, and so she thought that her visa status everything's good, but only to find out that the relatives were actually using her older sister, to open up bank account to hide tax money, right? So that's the only reason why they were using that family. So basically, they came here thinking everything all set, and turns out that they have no paper. So
Wow.
they became illegal. So after we started dating, I found out that's the fact, and not only did I move in, I told her straight up, let's get married. I said, we can, on one hand, we can build a relationship. On the other hand, I can help you uh, get get status, right? So we were together for about 8 years, but eventually we divorced. And my mother firmly felt that she used me for citizenship, right? But I never felt that way. I made the decision. I made the decision, right? With my current partner, we met online. We actually didn't start off as friends. We actually didn't like each other in the beginning.
Wow.
When we first uh met, you know, I didn't think I didn't think anything of her. I'm like, wow, she's not my type. She didn't think of me. As a matter of fact, when we got on the phone, because we used to write a lot. When first time on the phone, she said, "Oh, you sound like a Chinese guy,"
Wait, she's Chinese, right?
But she's Korean, yeah,
Oh,
but she's
she's
born
Korean.
here.
Okay,
Yeah, she's born here, right? And
gotcha.
and then, but then we started hanging out, you know. We started hanging out, you know, and then we slept together, and then the next thing you know, my oldest uh came out, you know, she found out she's pregnant, you know, 3 months later. So we never even formally became girlfriend boyfriend, and then my son came, and then we decided to really just work it out, you know. So our relationship has really it didn't start, you know, quote unquote normal compared to a lot of people. So even until now, we have a very interesting dynamic.
Well, let's talk about that dynamic because whenever I talk to you, you always say good things about her. So, what is that? Tell me about that dynamic.
Yeah, well, the dynamic is that you know, she's a very spiritual person actually. So she's actually right now she's a very she's a Korean shaman, right? So she has, simply put, she has psychic abilities that's connected to her ancestors. So she's like a medium, like she can speak to the spirits, she can speak to your ancestors. So her current role as entrepreneur. It's a healer, a therapist, a mentor on a spiritual level, right? Also, she has also been through a lot of traumas as she was growing up. Um, and when we first met, she told me about this dream she had that it was in ancient time in Korea, and she was coming home, but she was a man, right? She was
Wow.
riding on a horse, and she
Mhm.
was a general. She was
Wow.
riding. She was riding back home, and she opened the door, and she sees me. Me, I'm the wife, right?
You're the wife?
Yeah, with a baby on my back, and the other
Wow.
kid running around, and I'm cooking. Right?
Are you sure this wasn't a dream? Are you sure it wasn't real?
Well, I love that dream. I love that dream,
Uh,
because I always felt that very possible that my past life was a woman,
Interesting.
and even though I do a lot of man things, this and that, but people who really know me for a long time, they know that I have a lot of feminine energy, so I enjoy this dream. So even now, we're still in sort of a role. Like I enjoy, taking care of my kids, cook for them, and giving them all the emotional supports. Uh, but she on the other hand, seems to have more of a masculine energy. Seems more like a person who wear the pants. Uh, so that's one thing that's very different from a lot of other partnerships out there, couples, it's because we sort of have this reverse role, right? Back in 2022, while I was exploring um, my depressions, everything else, I I started wearing a dress. When I'm working at home remotely, I would put on a dress. You know, and I had a name. Her name was Caroline. I used to share this online, and so that's how I gained a lot of even more friends from the LGBTQ communities. So a lot of people thought that, oh wow, I'm a queer, I'm coming out, but it wasn't really the queer energy. It was that I was trying to embrace, I guess, certain feeling, my feminine energy. I was looking for a change. So she understand this mentality perspective perfectly. So she was encouraging. As a matter of fact, she gave me her dress to put on, to wear, because I only did that while I'm at work, because I used to make outreach calls as almost quote unquote like cold calls, and we had a quota of over 100 calls a day. It was very stressful. So I started to lose my belief system for the work I do. The only way I can gain back the belief system and gain back the confidence is to throw on a dress. So that's what I did. You know, uh, yeah. So yeah, it's if you want me to really talk about my relationship dynamic, it's gonna be another 2 hour episode, you know.
Well, I think I got the vibes. I think it sounds like she's sort of it's a reverse role. She has the masculine energy and you have the feminine energy. So when you wore that dress, what did it do? Did it increase your confidence? What did wearing the dress do?
Yeah. It actually increased my confidence, you know. It actually, it actually made me feel stronger, you know. Uh, but I haven't gone back to the Caroline mode for over a year and a half already, and I
Why
didn't feel
not?
like I just felt like I don't need that help anymore. I don't need that boost anymore, you know.
Mm.
That's why I also explained to many of my queer followers, you know, I said, let me explore this, you know. I can't give myself a label, you know. I can't say am I really queer or not. But then I said I'm making self-discovery. I'm trying to learn more about myself, you know. So while at the time while I was wearing a dress, as a matter of fact, you know, when I was the first time I put on a dress when I was actually was that I was 14 or 15. uh, I used to wear my mom's dress. I used to wear my mom's dress, and I used to put on her pantyhose. I used to put on her dress. I used to spank myself. As a matter of fact, I used to put on her dress and masturbate. Uh, and one time she called me. She suddenly she came home, right? And I ran to the bathroom with her dress. So she was so shocked, angry, and sad. Because you know the last thing she want to see is her son turn gay. I wasn't even sure why I was doing that, you know, but I just felt like I just felt like I wanna put myself into this damsel in distress type of mood. It kind of made me feel good, you know. But then that was gone, and then I never really had that feeling until you know, a couple of years back when I throw on a dress and trying to be like Caroline. But then when I was Caroline, I was definitely not a damsel in distress. I was a strong feminist, you know. That's how I felt like, you know. But as to and I try to analyze myself and think exactly what it is, you know. It didn't really come out. I couldn't contextualize, you know, but just energy wise, as a feeling, it just felt good to me.
Peter, is it possible that you're bisexual? Is that possible?
I don't know. It could be. It could be. I mean, I'm very comfortable with my sexuality. I know
Mm.
you know like the other day you show me this this video, you know, about the guy with the 3 inch cock, and I even wrote in the very video the person who posted laughed at it and liked it. You know, I even you know so exactly right. She's laughing at people with the 3 inch. I wrote yeah, even though I got 3 inch cock, but I still got three beautiful boys, so I got nothing to
Right.
complain. So I'm very comfortable with my sexuality. At the same time, you know, I'm one of those men who will compliment another man. For I like the way you dress, just like right now. The first thing I see is your shirt, right?
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
also the kind of man who I'm not afraid. I tell another man, hey, you're a good looking guy. You know, I've had many male crushes before. I've had many bromance situation before. But it never got to the point where I wanted to explore more things like that, you know. But I don't know. It could be. It could be. You know, I sometimes you know, I have given myself thoughts before this and that, you know. So, you know, perhaps I wouldn't think about, you know, having sex with a man, but having a man that's a companionship, uh, uh, you know, I have felt that before. Certain man, I like the way he looks. Perhaps I'll be comfortable to have a companionship with, you know, but not to the extent of you know, physical and you know things like that. You know.
Yeah, so maybe you were just emotionally attracted to men. Maybe not physically, maybe not sexually, but maybe you're just emotionally and mentally attracted to men. Is that possible?
It's possible. Also, it has to do with my belief of past life. You
Hmm.
know, that's why she told me this dream. and I accept the dream completely, because I felt that very possible that I could be a woman in the past.
Yeah, and reincarnation is a whole separate discussion, and I don't know, I don't know too much about reincarnation, but I do want to talk about like masculine energy versus feminine energy because it's always interesting to me when people assign certain qualities with masculine or feminine. So, for example, some people would say like masculine energy is assertive and aggressive and testosterone driven and leading, and some people would say feminine energy is more passive and more submissive and more compassionate and more empathetic. And it's always interesting to me, like when people just categorize and assign personality traits with masculine and feminine. And I always wonder, like, where does that come from? Because isn't that just somewhat stereotyping?
Yeah, stereotyping, culture, especially me as for a lot of people from Asia, especially East Asia, they have so much influence from Confucius culture coming from China. Now, Confucianism is male-based and male-dominating philosophy. Uh, in China's history, several philosophy have guided China, whether politically or socially. Going way back, there's Taoism, which seeks more of a balance in nature. But then after Buddhism was introduced to China as a way to balance even more, uh, Confucianism also introduced. So Confucianism really play big part in China, also East Asian history itself. If you look at it, he's always a man, being the king, being the emperor.
Yep.
Everything is always about a man in the household. China has, you know, uh, like my grandmother's father, right? He was he had like 5 6 different wives,
Wow.
right? So masculinity is always held up real high. Yet in a lot of these masculine families, there always happen to be a matriarch and
Yep.
holding down a fort, right? So then in a way where the matriarch is the real leader behind the scene, uh, and at the same time, she will reinforce the masculine world, the man's world, making sure the man gets the upper hand. Yet she's the brain behind everything. So for like my father, very proud of being a man, very proud of having masculinity. He was not supportive of me wearing a dress. Uh, he was not supportive of me becoming a real estate agent. Right? He felt that he felt like uh, salespeople and all they do is surface values, right? And it's not a real job, right? He thinks a man should have a steady job, steady pay. A man has to be the one who support a family, right? But obviously, I don't think that way, you know. Yeah, so feminism and masculinity, how you define them, I feel it has a lot to do with culture, with history. But it seems, you know, this world tend to cater toward men more. It's a man's world.
In many different ways that
Yeah.
is true. So I actually, while you were talking, I developed a theory. Can I share that theory with
Yeah,
you?
sure, of course, man.
So maybe as a child, you felt a lot of pressure to be masculine. You felt pressure to be masculine, pressure to be manly, pressure to throw away your feminine energy, and just pressure to be masculine. And maybe that's why you liked wearing the dress because now it took off the pressure to be masculine, and now you felt more free, you felt more empowered, and now that pressure to be masculine kind of dissipated. Is that possible?
Not really, actually. Not really, actually. Uh nobody in my family ever pressured me to to act like a man, or and also growing up, I was a I was a I did a lot of boy things, I'm always out there. I didn't stay home a lot and play with toys and things like that, but I'm outside. I'm playing with insects, I'm jumping around, climbing trees. Yeah, I did a lot of boy like things, But on top, even in elementary school, I had crush for several female classmates, So I was never, you know, reinforced to be a man. It was never an issue for me. It was never a pressure. I never felt like I need to hide it and in order to come out. So it's not like that.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe you didn't feel much pressure to be masculine, which is good because pressure on a child is children are very sensitive and even adults are very fragile, and pressure is a very traumatizing thing. So Peter, I'm gonna wrap this up. So you said that you have three boys. Three, is that correct? You have three
Two
boys.
boys, two
Oh, two
boys.
boys, sorry. So my question to you is what values do you want to pass on and do you want to teach to your two boys?
Well, right now my boys, they're definitely different from me, different from my upbringing. For the most, when my uh, I came to the States, I'm my oldest boy, age at 11, and there was so much, fighting going on in the house. I wouldn't say, this house is peaceful, it's conflict free. I do run into a lot of conflict with my partner. Um, uh, but at least our kids have both of us together at all time. At least uh, we talk to them. We don't helicopter over them and force them to think certain way, do certain way. My youngest, who's 7, he has severe food aversion and food aversion to smell, to texture, to taste. So, traditionally people say, yeah, he's a picky kid. A lot of old school kids say, yeah, starve the kid, make him starve. Don't
Wow.
don't give him food,
Yeah.
right? Nothing works. I even tried old school, new school way, nothing works. So I talked to the doctor. My doctor's also Asian, Korean doctor. And he's like, Peter, don't force him. I said, no, I don't force him. Also my partner taught me a lot of things, taught me a lot of things. If I'm not with her, I might succumb to the old generation trauma and doing things the old way, forcing things down my kid's throat. But my partner really helped me understand, uh, understand, how to do things differently. Yeah, she's the one who actually told me about generation trauma. She's the one who told me about how, because in Korean there's a term called hang. It's anger and rage that's instilled inside your blood. So I enjoy these concepts. So she made me look at things differently. So I just hope my kids are able to find the passion for the things that they want to do, right? They also see from me. I also tell them about my real estate struggles. Why daddy likes to work with low income housing. I tell my kids it's not all about the money. You want to do things more meaningful. So both my kids have really good hearts. So the value I want to pass on to them is the number one value I want to pass on to them is to make sure they have fun in life.
Yeah, it's important to have that work and fun life balance. Peter, I'm gonna wrap this up, but I just want to say that it sounds like you had a really rough past, and I know I said it before, but I'm gonna say it again. I'm really proud of you for breaking that cycle of abuse. You sound like a great father to me. I see your posts on Facebook. I see your posts on Instagram. You sound like an incredible and father to me who treats your children with a lot of respect, and you validate them and you value them. And I'm so proud of you for breaking that cycle of abuse.
Thank you very much, man. And lastly, if you see the OCD realtor, because I'm obsessively compulsive toward giving you an excellent service.
Thanks for coming on, Peter.
Thanks, brother. I'll talk to you later, man.
Have a good one, boss. Take